Welcome to Let's Go, a school health policy to increase physical activity time in high school students by Tracy Walker. The problems. Currently, high school students are not engaging in enough physical activity. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, only 26.1% of high school students participate in at least 60 minutes of physical activity per day for 7 days. This equates to only around 1 in 5 students. The CDC also states that at least half of that time, or 30 minutes per day, should be spent during school. Only a little over half, 51.1%, of high school students strength train at least 3 days out of the week. According to the Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans, adolescents should engage in muscle and bone strengthening activities for at least 3 days per week. Benefits of physical activity are immense, especially during adolescence when growth is at its peak, including decreased risk of chronic disease such as heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, osteoporosis, and obesity. Although the state of New Jersey requires 150 minutes per week of physical education, there is no current policy mandating physical activity time requirements for high school students. So why high school students? Increasing physical activity among high school students is particularly important as not only does regular physical activity typically decline in adolescence, it's shown to steadily decline throughout adolescence. As much as 15% of adolescents report no moderate to vigorous physical activity at all during the week. Regular physical activity is crucial for normal skeletal development during adolescence, as well as maintaining normal muscle strength, joint structure, and joint function. According to Brown, physical activity among adolescents is shown to increase levels of self-esteem while lowering levels of anxiety and stress. Thus, regular physical activity not only results in physiological benefits, but holds psychological benefits as well, both of which create a higher likelihood of positively influencing the adoption of healthy lifelong activity patterns into adulthood. Lack of regular exercise is associated with overweight, fatigue, poor muscle tone, and poorer academic outcomes. The repercussions that poor academic achievement brings into adulthood are vast. Those with lower education levels are less likely to engage in healthy behaviors and more likely to engage in poor health behaviors, such as smoking, alcohol use, and limited physical activity. It is crucial that we implement policy that teaches high school students healthy physical activity habits that they can bring with them into adulthood. The policy. Since adolescents spend a considerable amount of time in school, schools have a unique opportunity to enhance students' health and well-being. Current New Jersey policy emphasizes encouraging physical activity, but it is time to move forward with stricter policy that entails physical activity time requirements in order to graduate. To fill the gap in these policies and improve the health of students in my district, I propose Let's Go, a school health policy requiring a minimum of 150 minutes per week of physical activity time for high school students in Bergen County, New Jersey public schools. The 150 minutes would ideally be broken down into 30 minutes per day for 5 days. However, individual schools may choose to break it up how they see fit. The 30 minutes can then be broken up into time during physical education, or PE, and classroom time. Under this new policy will be 2 programs, discussed next, that will require allotting a portion of this time into classroom physical activity, specifically, as well as maximizing the quality of physical activity during PE class. The first program will be mandatory classroom physical activity time. Classroom physical activity is any activity done in the classroom and can occur at one or several times during the school day. According to the CDC, the benefits of classroom physical activity are vast, including improved concentration, reduced disruptive behavior, enhanced motivation, and improved academic performance. Yet, only 2% of school districts require high schools to provide regular classroom activity breaks during the school day. There are 2 primary approaches of implementation. The first is to integrate classroom physical activity into planned academic instruction. The second is to provide physical activity breaks outside of academic instruction. The goal is not to replace PE or recess activity, but to add to it and even use it to reinforce skills learned in physical education class. The first step to implementation will be to assess teacher and school administrators' interest in order to determine if anyone may be willing to serve as the champion and role model to show the benefits and ease of implementing classroom physical activity time. They may also help in gaining support from other teachers and school administrators. If the school already has a school wellness committee, this may be another option for additional support. With appropriate support and training, physical education teachers can serve as a resource to promote best practices and techniques for classroom physical activity. The program will require teachers to be provided with ongoing professional development on classroom physical activity. The next step is to assess student interest with the hope that some will be willing to help in designing and leading classroom activity. According to Springboard, evidence shows that both student and teacher interest is essential for the successful implementation of classroom physical activity. Some barriers to implementation may be teacher priorities that do not include physical activity and space and time constraints. To overcome these barriers, the best solution is to work with teachers and school administrators to identify solutions and ensure support. Support may also come from parents and community members in the form of advocating for classroom physical activity and volunteering to help with activities. Resources may be provided from local universities such as Felician University and community organizations like nonprofits who work with adolescents such as the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. The second program is designed to maximize the quality of physical activity during PE periods. According to the CDC, a critical outcome measure in determining the quality of a PE program is whether or not students engage in moderate to vigorous physical activity time for at least 50% of class. Currently, studies show that in typical PE classes, students participate in moderate to vigorous physical activity for less than 50% of the time. Studies also show that programs designed to improve the quality of physical education can increase the amount of time students are engaged in moderate to vigorous physical activity to over 50% of PE class time. For instance, in the Child and Adolescent Trial for Cardiovascular Health, or CATCH intervention, which was implemented in 96 elementary schools nationwide, the average percentage of time spent in moderate to vigorous physical activity during PE classes increased from 37.4% to 51.9%. Two strategies will be used to ensure successful implementation. The first will entail implementing a well-designed curriculum. Curriculum will be modified by replacing activities that tend to provide lower levels of physical activity, like softball, with ones that are more active, like dancing, aerobic games, and jump rope. Fitness and circuit training stations will also be added to lesson plans. Finally, teachers will be provided a list of moderate to vigorous physical activity options to help achieve variety. Schools can use the CDC's Physical Education Curriculum Analysis Tool, or PCAT, to help identify changes needed in curriculum. Following implementation, student assessments will be conducted to determine if moderate to vigorous physical activity time has improved. Virtually no funds will be needed as this tool is available for free online. A small amount may be needed for some equipment, which can be funded by the school's PE funding source. The second strategy will be providing PE teachers with appropriate training and supervision. They will receive specific instruction on how to implement the new curriculum, ongoing professional development opportunities to enhance their instructional skills, and constructive feedback through supervision by PE specialists. Funds will be needed in order to hire appropriate personnel. School administrators and teachers may select someone to be the head of outreach to reach out to community for support. Stakeholders will include teachers, parents, school administrators, and nonprofit organizations. In addition, a physical activity committee of parents, teachers, and school administrators will be put together to apply for grants as well as reach out to community organizations for partnership. Bi-weekly meetings with all involved will ensure everyone is staying on track. Through this collaborative effort, Let's Go will effectively implement these new programs into local schools.